Is there any questions y'all want to look at to start with? Anything pressing before we dive into 11.3?
Can I ask you a question back on 11.1?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you have in 11.1 worksheet number 3, we had the very first problem where we had to show formula substitution and result. And we're given the confidence level, the margin of error, alpha, and then it's a percentage. But I was stuck. I went into stat, prop, stat, 2 sample summary, and there's no observations, and I am lost on how I find those numbers that I needed.
What question are you being asked to answer?
How many men and women must you sample to correctly gauge the difference with 96% confidence?
So the how many question is one of these 2 formulas. Well, first it's a 2 sample. Well, second it's a 2 sample. So the reason you can't find the number of observations is that's what you're being asked to find.
Yeah. And I just did not know how to find it at all. I left it blank because I was like, I just don't know how to do it.
So it's one of these 2 formulas based on whether you have prior estimates or you don't have prior estimates.
Okay, what page is that on?
This is page, let's see, 274.
Okay, so
and Peg, what it sounded like you were doing is you were trying to calculate a confidence interval.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to do.
And
not an interval, but something else. It was wrong. It was wrong because that's what I needed.
You were in the wrong spot. Yes,
the
thing you would need StatCrunch for is this little guy, the Z critical value.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that enough to get you going? Does that?
Oh, that helps. That helps. Now I know what I was completely in the wrong place.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. Reagan, I saw you unmute. Did you have a question too?
No, I was just going to say that I'm ready for the 11.3.
Let's do it. Okay, so let's see. Did we wrote down our how to win at the final exam thing, right? Let me just really fast rewrite that thing. The thoughts to go through as you prepare, as you work through each of these questions. So the first thing you would do was say, what's the parameter? And you had 2 options, right? It's a mean or a proportion. And then I think the second one is how many samples? And of course, we now have 2 options, 1 or 2. Chapter 11 is everything 2. Chapter 10 and 9 was everything 1. If you're noticing, if you're looking carefully, chapter 9 was all confidence intervals and how many. And chapter 10 was all hypothesis testing. And chapter 11 is like, let's just do both of those things with 2 samples. Well, let's just redo it all. So then question 3 was, what's the question? And we had 4 options, right? It was, let's see, we'll label these as A. It could be the verify was one of the keywords, verify the requirements. It could be construct the confidence interval. It could be the one we just did, the how many or estimate. And then it could also be the test, perform the test. We'll just say test the hypothesis. So you identify the parameter, you figure out how many samples, you figure out what's the question, and then you figure out like, what do you need? What formula? So I put here like, I think how I said it last time was identify the given. And And maybe, so maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should say, determine the formulas. I'll put here reference sheet needs. / formulas. Because once you figure out what formulas or what those things are, you then go find all the things, because we give you everything, right? The problem has everything you need. You just have to read it and make sure you know all the words that go with each thing. So that's maybe then when we would say identify the need, identify the given. And then number 6 maybe is like just use the technology. And then I guess 7, I'm adding things this time. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Would be write the answer. And I don't, this is maybe too written out. I don't know. But this is kind of what we've been doing each time as we go through all this. Yeah, so to me, this is the most important one, because if you get these wrong, you're going to be looking for the wrong stuff. How many samples is fairly important too. I mean, I guess they're all really important. Okay, so let's do this. We're on page 731. One of the problems with this worksheet is it tells us what we're doing. We're working with 2 means and they're independent samples. So everything in 11.3 is just those problems. But what we should focus on is what are the clues that tell us this is the thing, so that when we do the chapter 11 review and the sample final exam and the actual final exam, we know what we're dealing with as we read the problem. So here we are. It's an agricultural experiment. The effects of 2 fertilizer on the production of oranges were measured. Randomly selected plots of land in 2 separate fields, A and B, were selected. The number of pounds of harvested fruit was measured from each plot. Do you see how that's 2 independent samples? By the way, remember the phrase for independent samples is 2 groups measured once. Is that clear to you that 2 fields we harvested from the field once? That's our measurement. Here's field 1. Here's field 2. Remember, we looked at this on Monday. This is not a dependent sampling. We can tell just by the way the data has been handed to us. We didn't line up each of the data values and then ask you to subtract all the data values to get a difference row. It's here's the data set from the first field, here's the data set from the second field. They're independent. There's no connection between the 2. It's not a before and an after. In fact, if you count the sample size for B, it's a smaller sample size than A. So we can't match up values and subtract. There's not enough. So that's another clue. We're working with independent samples. Okay, what question are you being asked to answer in question A? I'll show you the list again. Which of these? Go ahead.
Verified the requirements. So it's like the normal, random, all that.
Awesome. So verify the requirements. Let's go figure out where the verify requirements stuff is. It's not a single proportion, so we can't use that. It's not a single mean. We can't use that one. It's not independent proportions. It's not matched pairs differences. It's independent means. Now we haven't been asked to do a confidence interval or a hypothesis test. So let's quick check. Is there a difference between these 4 requirements for a hypothesis test and the 4 requirements for a confidence interval? Because if they're different, we should be careful. If they're not different, then we don't care. We can use either reference sheet. Does anyone know? Are they different? They're not different. So whether we're doing a confidence interval or a hypothesis test with two independent means, or we're using two independent samples, the requirements we're checking to verify that we can do either thing, they're exactly the same. C1, C2, C3, C4. All right, have at it. I'll give you like, what, 5 minutes to write it. There's not a ton of space. And so you kind of have to write small, unfortunately, because you have to write, you have to show this for each, you have to show this for each, or you can just say both graphs are approximately linear. It's okay to kind of shorten it a little bit. So go ahead. Let me give you like 5 minutes to fill that out. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Okay, how do we do?
I'm ready.
So did you say that, let's see, where's my pen? Here we go. Did you say, hey, random both given?
Yeah. We'd
Given
put
for both.
both given. As it's
I mean, I want,
two.
like, I want it to be clear when I read it that you are thinking about the two samples.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, yeah, I guess that's really picky, but
No, it's not. It's
I mean,
really
it is. But so in my in-person class, they were like, oh, do we have to say this random thing? Like it's always given. It's always just like, and I'm like, yeah, I get that, but it's also the most important part because if it's not randomly done, all of this result is garbage. So that's why I'm always wanting you to write it in there, and want you to keep that in your mind as you go out in the world and encounter people talking about data and things, and you should be suspicious of how did you collect your data. There was a, I know this gets on political stuff, but ignore the political part and just listen to the science part. There's websites out there that are collecting data on the effectiveness of a COVID vaccine. And what one website asks people to report negative effects. The problem is it's self-reported. There's no randomness, right? So you're only going to get people reporting negative effects. So any of those results are garbage because you haven't, it's not random, right? So you just have to be very careful about how things are put together. Doesn't mean that there aren't negative effects, or there are. It's just you can't generalize anything from the data collected. So that's why I'm picky about that one. Okay, this condition 2, is important because it's different between these two types of sampling. Did we have dependent samples? Was it a matched pairs differences? Or is it independent means, right? So we know these are independent means. So this is talking about the sampling, not that the samples are independent from the population. So this is where you're saying two groups measured once. Is that good for everyone?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, and then C3 is the condition we did back in chapter 10 and chapter 9. This is where when we selected these observations in each sample, are they independent from the population itself? And we have to be careful because the populations could be separate populations, or they could be the same population. So this independence is different than this independence. And this is where you're looking at the sample size. Now, how did we get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16? So
Yeah.
for this one, it's 16 less than or equal 0.05 of what?
Okay, that's my question.
I
Is it-
said all fertilizers.
Okay, I thought I was supposed to add up all the numbers, so I added up all the numbers, all the pounds, because the sample was out of all these pounds.
Well, let's look at what we did. We randomly selected plots of land in 2 separate fields. So we've got field 1, and we've picked a plot from the field, and we've got field 2, and we picked a plot from the field. So it's really all plots in field A. And then this one, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, this is the 12 plots from all plots from field B. Now, we have no clue if how many plots are in these fields. Are you with me on the trickiness of that?
I think I'm making it too hard on myself. I keep thinking that I have to find a number for population, and I don't. And that's it frustrates me. I'm like, what, how do I know? But now I do, it's words.
Yes, Peg, that's a really good point. You're never going to find the population in the data values. It will only ever be given to you up here if there's a number given.
I've got to write that down.
Yeah, that's a good thing to write down. In chapters 9 and 10, we told you the population value a lot. And in this chapter 11, we haven't given you the number for the thing. And you have to infer it from whatever we selected it from. And this one is a really weird one. If you think about like these mega farms, this is probably true. Because like the field could be like, 10,000 acre field. And who knows? Okay, and then C4 we already did, right? The normal. Let's see. Both normal probability plots are approximately. Both normal probability plots are approximately linear. Okay. Are y'all getting sick of these? I hope so.
Yes.
I hope that you're getting so sick of them because you've done them so much that you know them and it's just a lot of writing and you just know it, right?
Yes. 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 Exactly.
That's what it
Points
is.
on the final exam. You're going to do probably 2 of them, one for a single sample, one for a double sample. Easy points. It's like
Okay. So what's the probability that's going to happen?
100%. You're going to do 2 of them.
Okay.
There's going to be a verify. And I've told you this. I told you this last time. I've told you this a lot. Too often I see students hit this thing, verify the requirements necessary to construct a confidence interval, and they toss a confidence interval as the answer. Like every semester I grade this final exam, someone gives me a confidence interval here where they're supposed to give me the conditions that are met to construct it. So please don't screw that up. I hate taking off points. I really do. It's not fun. Okay. Can y'all do B? And I
think so.
totally in agreement with Cindy. Let's not do the standard deviation. Let's do the standard error. It's going to be of the X bar for A and the standard error of the X bar for B. The unfortunate part is you have to type these data into StatCrunch. Like the midterm, I will have all the data sets pre-typed and I will send you a Word document with links to each of the data sets, and you just open them up and do your thing. So let me give you 5 minutes. I think is that hopefully that's enough time. You got to type in the two data sets and figure out how to do it in StatCrunch. Ooh,
But can I ask, is it
Please.
the T-stat 2 sample
Well, let's see. Well,
with
first,
data?
what question are we being asked to do? Is
Well,
it
we
a
have to-
verified? Go ahead.
Find the following. Like we have to find the sample size, which we know, and the X bar, which we have to find.
Keep going to this box. This is the box that's the important one. And this is a weird way, like this isn't often how we asked it. What is this asking for right here?
Oh, the confidence interval.
Okay, so go to the page 273 and here's where it tells you what to do.
Okay.
No,
I just have to
What
find
you
that.
said was right, Peg.
Which, yes. Do you see how I'm not answering you? I'm trying to push you to use your resources to practice for when you get to the final.
Well, I mean, I had it right in front of me. That's why I asked you, because I had the page in front of not that particular page, but the page from this,
Nice.
chapter. Because I'm scrambling to find the page that you're on and I can't find it, which is why you have to really pare down on your notes.
273.
No, my appendix package doesn't have page
Oh.
numbers.
Oh.
Yeah, so no, it has not. It's just exam note. I've got it. Well, this is
Okay,
the one I've got
cool.
all notes over. Yeah, okay, so I'm right.
Set a timer for 5 minutes.
Eric, why do you make it so hard for me?
I'm getting you ready for the final. That's all.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Okay, y'all. I'm realizing we got lots of problems to do, so I got to speed this up just a smidgen. You did stat, T-stats, to sample with data. We said sample 1 was A, sample 2 was B. We're going to leave the pooled variances unchecked, so leave that. That's the default. We are doing a confidence interval because it says 96% CI right here. That's our key. That's the question we're answering. And let's see, come on now. And let's see, this was a 0.96. So we're computing that. Did you all get this? Let me show you a quick trick. NA is 16 because there are 16 rows. You with me on that?
Yeah, it's the same as the independent too. That we had to get our N up there.
Oh, right. Why am I writing 400 here? You're right. It's already up there. Now, unfortunately, X bars, oh, curse words. Okay, so we might as well, you have to do this for the early stuff on the final exam. So summary stats columns, I'm going to select column A and column B. And if we wanted to get the sample standard deviation, we could by doing this, selecting mean and standard deviation. Do you remember this back from chapter 3 when you all thought stats was hard?
So
Yes.
when I did this, like in the T-stat with to sample blah blah blah, I did the select all at the bottom and it gave me the mean. I don't know if my thing is
Or this one?
I'm doing it on my phone, so it might be a little bit different, but it let me like select a whole
Summary
bunch of stuff.
statistics right
Yeah.
there. Okay. Okay.
that's what I
Thank
got.
you. That's beautiful. Thank you, Reagan. That's better. Why don't we just do that? Because then it's all there.
Wait a minute, say that again.
Yep. So if you look back in here in the bottom under optional graphs and tables, there's this summary statistics thing. It saves us a
Oh.
step. And it gives us the X bar and the sample standard deviation and whatever else.
Okay.
So just select that, and then you get this nice little table, which is what I was about to do under summary stats and columns. I'm not going to bother to write the other stuff. You're all going to bother to write that. I'm just going to write this down. And then we're going to answer that last question, or you're going to tell me the answer you circled for that last question. Would you all answer for C? Is there a difference between these fertilizers?
Yes.
And why
It-
yes?
Well, the confidence interval is, you start at 3.743 and it goes up to 45.674.
So the key is that
Oh, I'm
0
sorry, because 0 is contained in there. I'm sorry.
No, what you said is correct. And that the point is that
Is-
0
is
isn't
it
in there.
reason-
That's yes. The fact that both numbers are positive means 0 is not in the interval, which is why there's a difference. Excellent. Okay. I want to
So the
skip.
mean
Talk to
was
me.
the thing up there, and then the standard error is the, what do we put? That's where I,
Okay, so
Yeah, you
that's good.
picked standard deviation. Are we supposed to do the standard deviation or the standard error?
So there is only one standard error in terms of the difference between when we calculate the differences between these. So we should probably not mess with this and just say, okay, here's the mean 457.125. Here's the standard deviation for A, 32.459. And then here's the X bar for the B. Here's the standard deviation for that one. What happens here is we calculate this, they do this test to calculate the difference, and we get a standard error about the difference of these means. And there's only one standard error calculation because we're subtracting these X bars. Okay, good observations, you all. Let me go to the super intimidating problem. I just want to throw this at you and see how scared you get. Go. So
Get your highlighters out.
get your highlighters out, and yes, and I want you to, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. No, I'm going to give you, 3 minutes to just read it. And at the end of the 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you to answer questions 1, 2, and 3. What's the parameter? How many samples? And what question you being asked to answer? Set a timer for 3 minutes.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm ready. What's the parameter?
Mu,
Mu. Good. How
because
did we
there's
know?
average and mean and standard deviation.
Nice. And right here, this is like the key sentence right here. And it says right in there, mean distance. Good. So we're working with a mu. Okay, 2 sample or single sample?
2.
How
There's
did we
2
know 2?
groups.
2 groups. Let's see. A group of, I don't know that word.
There's the 60 and then 51.
There we go. The 60 here and the 51 here. Control group versus non-control group. Okay, so is that a dependent or independent grouping?
I almost think it's dependent because you'd have to have one that doesn't get the treatment if one does get the treatment. Or is it independent because they, one doesn't? I don't know.
I think
For
it's
me, it could go either
independent.
way.
I think it's independent.
2 groups measured once, 1 group
In-
measured twice.
2 groups measured
Two groups
Independent.
Measured once.
Nailed it,
so
independent.
independent.
Excellent. So let's see, we'll label that on the side. It's 2 independent. Okay, question 3 is, what are you being asked to do?
The
Verify, construct how many
construct.
tests? Yeah,
Er-
say it again.
construct, I think, or test. I think test, because you're seeing if it's greater, test whether, yeah.
So this is a hypothesis test, meaning steps 1 through step 6. Okay, let's do step 1 together, because that's the difficult one. And if you get that, I think the rest falls from it. Although this one, part of it is just organizing the information, right? That's part of the challenge. Okay, we already know it's a mean. Let me go to the reference sheet for means of independent sampling. 2 sample independent means. So here's test for difference with 2 independent proportions, not that one. Matched pairs, not that one. Oh, here it is, test for difference between 2 independent means. It's page 279 on the provided reference sheet. Here's where you're going to go in StatCrunch. We don't have data, we've got a summary. So these are our options for our tests, and notice we don't need any numbers. So we're going to do something like this. mu1 is equal to mu2, mu1 something compared to mu2. What is it?
Greater. Well,
Greater than.
we
Okay,
want,
greater, provided group 1 stands for the treatment group, right? Because it says treatment group greater than the control group. So we have to define group 1 to be treatment and group 2 to be control in order for it to be a greater than symbol.
so yeah, okay.
If you switch that, then the
Then it would be
inequality
a
switches.
technically less than, yeah.
Right. So you get to control that because it doesn't say make group 1 the treatment group. It just says test this and do it however you want.
Okay, but there was one word in here that I think Cindy, you brought up when we were talking about these word problems, and up in the very first sentence, it says they conducted a study to determine whether treadmill exercise could improve the walking ability. And I remember you saying that means less than.
I like
So
that.
it goes like when you're standing on the low end and you want to improve. So for me, I kind of make a V out with my arms. And I remember Cindy saying that with our notes class in one of these
So
classes.
it depends. The word improve depends on the context, though.
It definitely context, yeah. And that
'Cause-
problem it was,
Go ahead, Cindy.
no, go ahead.
Well, like if you're if you're wanting to lower your cholesterol, like improved cholesterol is maybe lower cholesterol, whereas improved walking distance is maybe longer. And so Peg, you're totally right that this is a good word. The other thing that's maybe important is that this word isn't in the like the claim sentence. So it's not the most important word to look at, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And then the last thing is which direction the inequality or which way we think about improved being depends on how we treatment and control. So
So I think when we use the word improve, Peg, it was like down near the bottom where it would say something like test whether the mean distance walk for the patient improved. So we use the word improve down here rather than up where they just happen to use the word improve up here. So that's not our main word that we're looking for. We want to use the word greater than,
Yeah.
because it's down where it says that's the test. There's where the claim is.
Yeah, and this is a frustrating thing. Like we've given you, this is like a nice novel to read, and we really don't need any of this to solve the problem. Like it's fun information. Really, we could have started here. Okay, so I'm gonna turn you loose. But I've had a question about step 3, folks needing help with this. Note, step 3, you're just using technology. So let me pull up what's happening in step 3. And when you're doing this with summary, you've got to find all of this stuff. The sample mean for X for 1. So you need to find 6 things.
And it's
So-
all given to you. Read the paragraph.
And it's
And
all
then
You
there.
got
Yeah,
this,
that's right.
everybody.
The
It's
confidence
all there.
interval is the level of significance.
Yeah, I'll write that one down for you too. Alpha is the level of significance
I
that's
know.
available right here. Good. So
And
step
then-
3, I'm gonna just write all the stuff you need to find. I'm copying it from right here. You need X bar 1, you need S1, you need N1, you need X bar 2, you need S2, you need N2, and I want you to find it all, because that's what you're gonna have to do on the final exam.
The final exam, is it like this where they give, I mean, everything that we need is in this paragraph? Is that how the final exam? is
Always and
gonna be?
forever. Yep. Every
Alright.
question on the final exam, all the information is either on the exam itself or on your reference sheet.
All right.
Okay, let me give you 5 minutes to try to find all that, and then we'll check in to see if you were able to find it. Set a timer for 5 minutes.
I'm ready.
I'm not.
You got this, girl.
Okay, go ahead. I'll just write as I go. I mean, I know the answer. It just takes a while to write stuff.
I still got a minute left in my timer. I'll start writing things. How about that? How do y'all feel about those numbers I wrote down? Green was for treatment. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Nice. So treatment was defined as group 1. Maybe I should highlight shoot and shoot. So 10.6, 2.5, 60, 8.9. Ooh, that looks really bad. That's a 2.1. Looks like I have a 21 here, right? 2.1 and 51. Now, so I think we talked about writing this differently. We have written it differently, writing it so it matches StatCrunch. And in case you're wondering how StatCrunch got that, what you do is you subtract the Y2 or the mu2 from both sides.
Eric,
this
we
is-
actually wrote it the
This
way
way?
StatCrunch does.
Okay. So this is how StatCrunch, why StatCrunch looks like this. When you subtract it, you get 0 on this side, and then we don't know these numbers, so you just get this. And then the same thing for that, where we had mu2 is greater than mu1. We're subtracting that mu2 from both sides. This is why StatCrunch looks like it is. They're the same exact thing. And that's why. So the reference sheet writes it one way, the StatCrunch writes it the other way. We just need to put the greater than. It's unfortunate that StatCrunch groups confidence intervals and hypothesis testing together, because you might think you need to type some here or whatever. You don't need to type anything. You really don't need anything else in here, although remember, sometimes we like to see the p-value plot because it helps us think about the picture for step 4. So you can select that, you don't have to. We also could click the summary stats, but we already have the summary stats, so there's not really any point. And just click compute. And here's what this readout looks like. And it's a lot, right? Excuse me. And there's all our stuff. Do we all agree on our outputs?
Yes.
Yeah, I got the same.
Oh,
Yay.
yes,
I
yes.
just, so we do want to do like the, not the confidence interval thing. When we go back, that's the only way to get the p-value.
Because we're doing a hypothesis test. Yes.
Right.
Now, the graph will look funny. There's no area because the area is essentially 0 because this t value is incredibly large. It's really far away from the center. My assumption is that you all are good with steps 4, 5, and 6. Is that true?
This one I feel real comfortable with.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it just takes time. That's the only
It
thing.
does. Yes. It's a
So-
ton of writing. Yes.
It's a ton of writing.
Yep.
Yeah, that number 6 was a paragraph.
Right. So we could say there is enough evidence to show there's a difference between the treatment and the control group. Or you could say there is enough
Oh, that
evidence
was a
to
lot
show
easier than what I wrote.
the mean distance walk.
Same here.
Yeah. So you can shorten it. You just need to make it clear that you understand the context. Okay, let's go back then and do the one that's difficult for everyone. Or that we tend to struggle with, and that's where we give you the output. Now, let's pause for a minute before we read anything about this problem, and I want you to compare this output that you're seeing on the screen, whoops, or on the page for number 2, to the output that StatCrunch has given us. What's different about this output, this one, and the one that's on the screen?
We don't have the confidence interval.
Okay, so what does that tell us? I mean, maybe that's.
I'm drawing a blank.
Is the confidence interval question?
Yeah, Misty, that's right. This is a confidence interval answer. This one was a hypothesis test answer. And like that's, so we're reading a confidence interval output with all of its glories and things, and this one is reading a hypothesis test output with all of its glories and things. Okay, so get your, when you see that, and that's the thing, when you read outputs on the final exam, because this is going to happen, you're going to be given a problem and there'll be a StatCrunch output. Make sure you take a second and just read, what is this labeled as? What are you being told? This is a 2-sample T confidence interval, and the T tells you that this was from a mean. And then this tells you that they're independent means. All right, let me give you 5 minutes and you see what you can do with this mess.
With the, where it says difference, does that mean that it was dependent?
No, because even with both independent and dependent, we're calculating differences. It's just, how did we calculate the difference? Did we subtract each of the data values, or did we subtract the means? One of the big clues about it being independent is the fact that the sample sizes are different. You can't, like when you do dependent samples, you have to have the exact same sample size. Oh, good Lord, am I recording? Oh, good, I am recording. Oh, whew. Okay.
Also, I think with the like the, oh gosh, what do I want to say? Isn't it mu of D that we use for dependent instead of mu1 minus mu2?
Very good point. Yes, yes. That's your other huge clue. All right, here we go. 5 minutes. Great questions, you all. So the timer for 5 minutes.
I can't find in my notes where to compute that standard error for C.
Me either.
So it's given to us. I didn't need to do anything.
Well, now I gotta think. Standard error of X bar E. So, okay,
Right, so it wants you to do the east, and that's different than both of them together, correct?
are you ready for some old school stuff?
I don't think that E is for east. Because east is number 2. I mean, number 1, mu of 1, you know, the little number 1.
So
I think that
here's
E is something
here-
else.
here's the standard error formula for a mean. It's the sample standard deviation divided by the square root of n.
So it's
so-
S divided by the square root of n.
So the sample standard deviation, yep, the standard deviation of the sample divided by the square root of the sample size. So yeah, this
What
would
page
be,
was that, Eric? Sorry to,
that would have been page 268.
okay.
So then we would take our east standard deviation and divide it by the square root of 30.
That's it.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, look at all these decimals we don't want to mess with. That would be it. Yeah, that's it. And that's an old school question. Now, I think this standard error, that standard error, its calculation is going to be, well, so here's, and these degrees of freedom are not in -1. They're quite a bit different. Note that, like, so just know that for these independent samples, we're not asking you to understand where the degrees of freedom come from. Just know it's a little complicated, and we'll just let StatCrunch tell it to us. Did you all say 2 groups measured once for this one?
Yes.
Nice. How many cities in the East were sampled? 30.
Mhm.
What was the average time between the accidents for drivers in the West?
I didn't get to it yet.
Oh, okay.
Average time, that's just the mean. That's the 8.867,
Good.
but rounded to, how many decimals do you want? 4?
Right here says 3.
Oh, so if I just read the problem, Margaret Ann.
You know, it happens. I'm with you. I've been there too many times. Now, this is a great reminder. And I would encourage you all, I think this is helpful. I could be wrong, that on your reference sheet where you work, like your personal written one, where you think about confidence intervals, that you just draw a little like general confidence interval, and you note that there's a lower limit, an upper limit, a point estimate, a margin of error, and a width. And then you could put in like the E is equal to upper limit minus lower limit divided by 2, and point estimate is equal to upper limit plus lower limit divided by 2. But then you could also remind yourself that the point estimate is just the statistic. Those are all like little pieces to know. So there's nothing to do for this one. It's just 0.46. Oh, easy killer. 0.4676. Like it's just
Eric,
this. Talk to
For
me.
D, it says give units, but I didn't know if it was like minutes, hours. Doesn't really matter.
I think it says years.
Oh, years.
That's it. Years. That's such an interesting number. I mean, it makes sense that insurance company would want to know this because that's how they're going to calculate premiums. So there's about a half a year difference between living in the East and the West based on this point estimate. But if we look at this thing, there is really no difference because zero's in the interval. Oops, that's the answer to G. Oh, and I also told you how to find F. Okay.
Isn't E the upper plus the lower divided by 2?
No, because that's the point estimate.
Okay, so what did I do wrong?
So plus finds the center, minus finds the distance. Does that make sense? But it ends up, these end up being added together because you're subtracting a negative number. I don't know if that's helpful or not. How we doing here? I kind of just filled these all out. I don't know that you all had enough time to work on these.
Good, that went well, better than I expected.
Oh, good.
Can we expect to have like an output table like that on the final?
So there will be two ways that you will encounter questions on the exam. One way is a problem, produce the output and, you know, like do the confidence interval stuff, or here's the output, answer the questions like this. Those are the two types of questions you'll be asked.
That makes sense.
And it's all centered around, you know, making testing that you understand all the pieces of this stuff. So it's like, can you do it? Can you produce it? And then do you understand all the inner workings of it? Okay, so look at this gross stuff. We got another hypothesis test with an awful looking table, right? And then we've got a whole nother worksheet with a whole bunch of stuff on it. And then we've got a whole nother review worksheet with a whole bunch of stuff on it. And we've got 45 minutes of time left, plus we've got, oh man, that worksheet is long. Plus we've got an entire sample final exam review. And I would like to propose that we not do the 11.3 worksheet, 11.3 number 3 worksheet. That we
Sounds fabulous. I will pull it out right now.
we
Sounds
strike
great.
this.
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
I will go
Yay.
into Canvas and delete it right now.
Nice.
Yes,
Let's strike that.
you do that.
Okay, so 11.3.3, we are throwing
We're
in the
gonna
garbage.
get rid of that, all 50,000 pages of that,
Yeah.
and let's instead go to the better one. That's the chapter 11 review. That's the mix of all the 11 stuff that forces you to figure out which parameter, how many samples are we working with, and what question are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's start here.
Okay.
And let's work through however many problems we can get through in the 44 minutes we have left. By the way, I forgot to say, congratulations, you all. You've encountered all the material you need to learn for stats. It's done, nothing new. Yay!
Yeah, they were cheering last night.
Oh, yes. I was so excited. Like, one of my colleagues sent me a TikTok. Maybe you got it too, Cindy. I don't know. Of a, no, I shouldn't say it. I'm not going to say it. That's mean.
Okay, you have to because you started.
It's a professor pouring out a glass of wine for the students that did the calculation that needed 128% on the final to pass the class. I know that that is not true for anyone in this class. I think everyone can pass. I don't know. Let's start here. I'm gonna give you, well, you know what I think I'd like to do? Instead of us working through all the problems, why don't we just spend 3 minutes on each question and state these 3 things? So what, and then if we have extra time, we can go back and run through them. So I'm going to start the timer for 3 minutes, and you read the question, and we'll write down what it is. Okay. Start a timer for 3 minutes.
I would actually prefer to do it the other way. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion, but that's mine.
What other way?
To
To
do the whole
where
problem.
we work on the problem and then he reviews the answer with us instead of answering those 3 questions.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
I like the 3 questions approach too, though, because if we can get those 3 questions right, we know we're going to get the problem right. on the
That's
final.
how I feel. I'd rather just zip through so I have my formulas done, because then I've got all my formulas in there and I know what to do. Or everything I need to know what to do. That's
Yeah,
for
I
me.
just have a hard time reading the problem sometimes to figure out which is what.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
no
let-
worries.
That, for me, anyway.
Okay, well, let's do that. I've already started the timer. You read number 1 and let's see how it goes. Okay. Parameter for number 1.
Proportion,
How did we know?
the percent,
Good. 2 sample or single sample?
2 sample,
And then I should mention proportions, we only do independent samples, but how did we know it was independent samples?
Good question. Because there's two?
Because Michigan is better than Ohio? Yeah,
Of course it is, yes.
two groups measured once.
Yeah.
All right, then what question must we answer?
How many?
How many? So then maybe we should bother with the formula real fast. Is this
is
a
the one that
weight-
has the old data, new data thing?
Yeah. I forget what page it was. We had it here, 273, I think.
273 or 274?
274. It's this gross one. It's the awful one.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Let's do number 2 a little bit faster. I'm going to give you 2 minutes and we're going to note the parameter and then here. So we'll do 1 here and then and 2. And then we have 2 question 3s, right? So 2 minutes.
What page was number 3 on? But how many? 274. Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay. From number 2, what parameter?
Proportion,
Okay, how did we know?
because we've got percent signs.
Good. These percentages nailed it. 2 sample, well, 2 sample or 1 sample?
2 sample.
Good. Again, Michigan and Illinois this time. And it's always independent with 2 sample, but note it's 2 groups measured once. Okay, what is A asking us to do?
Verify.
Verify. So this is C1 through C4, right?
Mhm.
What is B asking us to do?
To construct the confidence interval?
Construct. So your answer looks like this. Lower limit, upper limit. Good. Okay, I know I think we're gonna have time to come back. When you see this table, what do you immediately know the parameter is?
Neil?
Good. Anytime you have a data set, you know that has numbers in it, you know it's a mean. You know it's mu. Let me give you a minute for you to determine if this is a two sample dependent or two sample independent. Okay, what do you think? Two sample independent or two sample dependent?
Independent.
I thought it was dependent because they were two groups that both had surgery.
So is it two groups measured once or one group measured twice?
One group measured twice. I do that
This
right?
is a really tricky one because we put the thing together, right? So we would have put a D here and had space for you to fill in the differences.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Good, independent. Two groups measured once. Okay, good. When you see this graph, what do you immediately know is the parameter?
And it's normal?
Well, that tells
Well,
us we're
but
gonna
it's
have a normal
ram-
distribution.
Oh, wait a
but
minute,
what-
you're on a different page, sorry.
You're okay. You're right that we're gonna use that for normal. But what type of parameter, mean or proportion?
Mean,
Good. Let me scroll down. I'm sorry, I'm just moving us through really fast, identifying parameters. Let's see if there's another real fast one. Okay, I'm on page 744. I see a table again. What do we immediately know is the parameter?
Mu.
Good. Now with
And
this
it's
one,
dependent because it has difference.
okay. All right, all right. So we have mostly looked at all of the problems on here. We haven't answered all of them. Note, can you conclude this is a hypothesis test? Here's a hypothesis test with an output already made for you. Here's a hypothesis test. And here's a confidence interval with a readout. And here's another confidence interval with some verifying. So we've got 30 minutes for you to work through all of this. We could just, let's skip all the verifying, shall we? Why don't we go back to number one and let's do like 3 minutes and see if you can't get the answer on that one and then check it. Does that feel okay? Set a timer for 3 minutes.
Eric, how do I get Z alpha over 2 over error? How do I get that? that z-score over error. I mean, I know how to get P1, P2, Q2. I know that, but then how do I find my finding my critical Z? Okay. That's all I needed. Now I'll just have to figure it out.
This is,
Oh,
so it's
stat crunch.
the,
Oh, I have to go. See, that's it. You can't. Okay, so here's my question, or maybe just a comment. So when I do this horrible thing down here, I have to go to StatCrunch first to get my critical Z or whatever that score is right there. The thing in the parentheses. And the thing in the parentheses is really only one number, right? It's not
correct,
a number over another number.
correct. Because that alpha divided by 2 is just saying that it's a between area.
Okay,
But you know that the error is separate, right, Peg?
no, that's what I asked.
Yes, that's what I thought you were saying. So the error is a separate number.
Oh my God. How many weeks left? We can do this. We can do this.
One,
I know.
just next week.
It's okay. It's just so much. My brain explodes.
Just do some push-ups. That'll help.
Eric, can you go to the page with the prior and no prior, please? Just because I don't want to rifle through my papers.
That was 3 minutes, but I sense maybe you could use a few more minutes.
Yeah, I'm not even close. I'm still trying to find the Z value. Okay, I did it right. Not that I really know what to do with it, but I'll figure it out.
I'm gonna go ahead and write some stuff up for y'all. Um, The most common mistake I see on this problem is forgetting to convert this percent to a decimal when putting it in. So, so it's that. And then this one can be a little tricky typing in sometimes. If you're using Desmos, typing exactly how you see it, you can't use brackets. Oops. Come on now. So the answer is approximately 1997.632, which we always round up. So this many Michiganders and Ohioers, whatever the Ohioans, I think is the correct term. Is that what y'all got?
Yes.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking you're probably okay with number 2. I'm thinking. And maybe number 3 you're okay with, but maybe we should do number 4 or which one would you all like to do next? We have 22 minutes. Number 5 might be a good one to do. Let's do 5. How's that sound for you all?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's do 5. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes and we'll check in to make sure you're making it places. If you haven't completed the chapter 11 project, this is the same problem you're doing on chapter 11 for the Skittles hypothesis, like the hypothesis test. Set a timer for 5 minutes. That was 5 minutes. I'm just gonna fill in A and B and you check how you feel about those answers. Ooh, how do y'all like my step one?
So I did P1 equals P2, and then the less than, the control group has lower than the side effects, but it has to do the 0 thing. Because that's just easier to like understand than,
Yeah, also, but mine's wrong and yours is
Oh.
right either way,
okay.
anyways.
So it's
And-
less, the alternative is less than or greater than? I put
The
less than.
control group, which is group 1.
Yes, should be less than. So,
Okay.
right, if,
All right,
if,
no, I
I was
agree.
totally wrong. And that's totally fine too. Why won't this erase? If you would rather do it this way, which, and if that feels easier to understand, by all means, run it that way. Yeah. Let's see. I will just pull up this answer and then maybe we'll move on to the next problem. Just what y'all got for step 3?
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Let's do another one. Let's move on to a different one.
well, oh,
Go ahead.
okay, I see the 0 now. I couldn't see your p-value approximately. Your decimal point was a little small for me. I see it now. I thought you
Okay.
put 0.17.
Gotcha. Yeah. Good. Let's do a reading one. Let's do number 6. I'll do a timer
You
for
just
5
keep
minutes.
that page with what you just wrote
Yes.
on there. I mean, I
Most
have it in
definitely.
front of me, but I want to make sure I'm writing the right numbers down.
Most definitely.
And then.
And I'm just saying, let's move on because I feel like
Go
step
ahead,
4.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
Okay,
I have the same numbers, I just
good.
go, go, go.
So we'll do
Where are you
5 minutes.
going now?
Question 6. Let's see how you do reading an output. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm just gonna jump in here, y'all, because we are quickly running out of time. How'd you feel about this kind of test? Was that left? Why am I forgetting? It is right. Right tail test? Because of greater than?
That's what I got.
Nice. Got 104 here.
Mm-hmm.
What was the average gas mileage for cars made in Europe? You got 24 point blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Why is it independent? Two groups measured once. And then do 4, 5, and 6 of the hypothesis test, right? Because this is step 3 right here. Okay. Note, by the way, we do not reject. So there's not enough evidence to support our claim that there's a difference in the mean of mileage of these vehicles. Could be because 0.06 is not less than 0.05. So there's a few questions left on here for you to practice. When we get together on Monday, I'm happy to look over them. I'm sure you could take some time tomorrow even to look over them. But what your job now, really the most important, I think, of all of them is for you to get your reference sheet together and take this as an exam like we talked about before. And it's like, to me, the best way to use this sample final exam is a way to test if you're ready. So if you feel like you're not ready yet to do that, you could go to this other review first, this review, and you could work through the problems here that you could check your answers on, and then come and take the final exam review as the exam and like grade it as Cindy and I help you with the answers, show you the answers. But I get that that's a lot, that's a huge time commitment. So it might be good to just jump right in on this and be like, hey, can I do this with my reference material? And my advice would be, any question on here that you're like, man, I have no idea how to do this, go find out how to do it. And if your reference material does not have what you need to be able to do the problem, find a way to get that information on a reference sheet. Because most likely the questions that are on here are going to show up on the final exam. Think back to the midterm you took and the sample midterm and how similar those two were. The final will follow the same sort of setup. So what kind of questions, what kind of thoughts or things do you have for me in our last 4 minutes before you go on your weekend from 1:33 and we come back and have only one class left in 1:33 to prep for the final? Is there anything?
I would like to know what Cindy plans on doing tomorrow so that I can organize for that. I have a test tonight in A&P, so I have to leave tonight. I won't be home.
So tomorrow we will go over any of these that you guys want to from the chapter 11 review. And then we talked about yesterday that what we would do is kind of what Eric did for the what he was starting to do for the chapter 11 review is get out your sample final exam. I'm not going to do any of the problems with you, but we can go through and maybe say, okay, this is what chapter, what are the like things, especially like what would you need to do to go to StatCrunch, that type of thing. So we would work through that, talk through it together, and then leave it for you to sit down when you guys have the time, treat it like a final, get out your reference sheets. Guys, we did kind of talk last night and we decided, or yesterday, and we talked about, you guys are not really going to need much new notes for the final exam. If you guys use your flow charts that we filled out and also just the appendix A. Try just using those to take the sample final. You guys really shouldn't have to write too much extra, because like Eric said on Wednesday or Monday, less is best.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a novel trying to flip through and find. So I think if you use your flow charts, which have like where you should be looking on your, those are very condensed. So,
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
yeah,
Just take what you have already and see if it's good enough.
yeah,
And then you can modify as you go. Like if you're like, man, I don't remember how to do a class midpoint, and you look at your midterm reference sheet, and if you don't have it on there, get it on there. Or you don't have this on there, get it on there.
correct.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.
You
Thank
too.
you.
too.
Bye.
Okay, you all, happy studies, great work. You got this. We're there. I have office hours tomorrow, 8:30, 11. If anyone wants to stop it, like if you've got project questions or things, feel free to make use of that. It's just the Zoom link in Canvas. And then we'll see you on Monday. And then I'll talk again on Monday about the final exam. Essentially on Wednesday, I'm just going to turn on Zoom at 8. We'll talk again. I got to decide how I'm going to run that. I might just use the tutoring hours link so that all of my online classes can come to the same place and just have that open all day long, and people just come in and start the exam when they're ready. So, okay, see y'all.
Good day. I'll see you tonight, Eric.
Sounds good, Cindy.